Hello, today we are here to discuss Tiwanaku. This is a new Kickstarter release that just came in, and I checked it out at Gen Con. It was one of them that I got to demo ahead of time, and as soon as I demoed it, I placed my order for it because it's kind of like a sudoku if you're into those kind of puzzle games, logic problems. So before we get into that, it's just logical to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell down there so you can follow along as we talk about all of our different games that we've got coming in from Kickstarter, because we've got a lot of them been coming in, or new releases, or old stuff, because we like to play the old stuff too.
That's right.
All right, Rob, what can you tell us about Tiwanaku?
All right, so Tiwanaku came out in 2022, and it looks like there's a little bit of a date there. It's kind of odd that you just got the Kickstarter, because I've seen prices from both Card House and Miniature Market and stuff like that. So maybe they've had the retail for maybe a bit. Overall rank on Board Game Geek is 5,167. It's rated at 7.4. Plays 1 to 4, but an interesting part is that it's got all game modes. So it's got solo, co-op, and competitive. Plays in 60 minutes for ages 14 and up. 14 might be a little high. I think
yeah, I mean, anybody that can do puzzles like this, it's not, these are not advanced Sudoku.
No, it's not. So yeah, I think 14 up's a little high. Designed by Olivier Gregore, art by Raphael Samak, I believe how you pronounce that. I apologize if not. Published by Sit Down. Now, a lot of price ranges here. So at MSRP is for $49.99, but Card House had it for $36.99. Geek Market had it ranged from $27 all the way up to $110. So a lot of different price ranges out there for this game.
And this is the Kickstarter Deluxe version, so I'm not sure which one, like what's different from this versus the retail.
Right.
This one, when we get the quality of components here, you'll see that we got like wooden pieces that have screen printing on them. I think that, and we have wooden shaped resource bits. Other than that, it's pretty much cardboard. We have tokens, but it is a good cardboard. Has a linen finish and it's a good thickness. So, and then of course we have the Pachamama, which is kind of the main driver of the game. So it's pretty cool. It's you put your puzzle inside of it, and you have dials and switches in there to open. Yeah,
so it's a scenario, and the scenario has setup as well as the different aspects of gameplay involved.
Yeah. And then interestingly, for the co-op, but not for the competitive, you have screens, which usually you would think
it'd be the other way around.
But yeah, but in this one, the co-op mode has them. And then there's also a solo play of it, or I believe there's even a 2-player Automa. So, yeah.
So lots of different ways to play the game.
Yeah. So as far as, and it has a board. The board has a nice feel to it as well, and it's 2-sided.
Yeah, so the 2-sided, it's got the scoring and all that on the board, and then the other side is for the full size board, and you have a separate scoring board for that one.
Yeah. So basically this is kind of the starter mode. You've got several puzzles that are at the half size, and then it goes into the full length size, which is a good way of getting you into the game. So all in all, I think it's a pretty decent quality. Everything is done pretty well. Now, there was an add-on to replace these cardboard tokens with wooden ones, as well as the tiles for the different terrain types, but it was like $22, $23, and that's like half the price of the game. So I don't think I could justify the spend, which is tough for me to even say.
Yeah, that probably hurt them.
That did hurt. I just didn't see playing it enough times to justify that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, so all in all, I'm thinking probably an 8 as far as the quality.
I'm gonna go a little bit lower, and I'm gonna go 7.5. And the reason why is because the screen printing on the pieces look really nice. They could have screen printed on the little fruit pieces and the vegetable or whatever it is. So it's like they didn't go all the way with what I think the quality should have been. So I want to knock it down a half point just for that. So 7.5.
And it does have a really nice insert for storing.
Yes, it does.
Everything.
Yes, it does.
Going on to theme. So this is set in, I'm presuming, South America, because it's the Andean goddess, Mother Earth, Pachamama. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it.
Yeah, probably Pachu or something like that.
Well, there's no U in it. It's Pacha.
Okay.
So it's Pachamama, it looks like, but it's probably...
It's not my mama.
Yeah. It's for the Quechua people. So I'm assuming those are South America and the Andes Mountains are definitely South America, so that'd be Chile area.
Shows you how much research we did.
Yes, yes. So this one is basically they're trying to use the divination from the goddess to help them find the best places to plant their crops, and I think it's a kind of an interesting idea for the puzzle game aspect of this, to try to keep your crops separated and trying to discover different terrain types to find the optimal. So yeah, all in all, I think thematically they did a nice job integrating it into the gameplay. And it's got beautiful art. I mean, all the alpacas or llamas or whatever they are, and the terrains on the boards.
It just everything's pleasant to look at.
Yeah,
it's just. I mean, it's not over the top at all. It's pretty simplistic. It's just very pleasing to the eye.
Yeah. Yeah, if anything, the only thing that was disappointing is that the terrain is very basic. It's just one color and it's got a symbol on it, but it makes the gameplay much easier.
It does.
So, I'm not disappointed in it from that standpoint. It's just it stands out as being very simplistic.
Yeah.
But I think if you got too much, it would be clutter.
Right.
So, and this is just amazing.
That is really cool. At first, I didn't think I was going to like it because I thought it'd be too gimmicky.
Yeah.
But once we got it set up and working right, it's really neat.
Yeah. So, this one is the big selling point of the game, I think. I'm probably going to give this an 8 on this as well.
I agree. Thematically, it all makes sense, and the mechanics work really well for the theme, which is really important for me. So, therefore it tells that story that's so important. So yeah, I think an 8's a good score.
All right, moving on to the rulebook. So the rulebook is actually only 12 pages, which is really nice.
But it's very nice looking. I didn't read it, but it's very nice looking.
It's a very well done as far as the feel of it. It's a good solid paper. It's not the type of standard. Yeah, it's almost cardstock paper. Yeah, and it has a little bit of a finish, a little linen finish, but not much. Very subdued. The cover, it does go straight into kind of the back history of the Quechua and why they are, doing what they're doing as far as trying to find their locations. And then it takes it straight into the overview of the game and how that ties into the overview. I thought that was nice. Got some nice art. It has all the pieces laid out, showing you what all the pieces are and how to set it up. Setup is super easy on this game. Especially with the separated pieces, the way they're in the board box, you can just get them out. It's very simple. The rules are basically 2 steps. There's 2 actions on your turn you can choose from.
It's a logic puzzle. So when you really get down to it, it's an abstract game for sure. And, and it's pretty simple. Yeah,
it's like you move and explore or you divine. That's basically it.
Yep.
And, they go through the explanation of the kind of the parameters around the logic and how things can be placed, which, once you got that down, it is, if you're familiar with sudokus and logic problems.
Less than a round, it'll take you it'll snap.
Yeah. Then after that, there's a 2-page solo mode, and then there is a 2-page cooperative mode. And usually I don't like co-op, but this one I think might work very well as a co-op. And then on the back, it's just got a way, just quick teach, which I thought was a cool.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they've done a nice job with getting you into the game quickly.
We had no problems. I don't think we needed to look back in the rule book at all.
No.
So.
Well, the only problem we had was Miranda didn't understand how to use this device.
That device, but it's quite funny.
Yes. So, I think the rulebook does an excellent job. I'm going to give it a 9.
I think and just seeing it looks great. I agree. It looks cool.
All right. Moving on to the gameplay. So, at the start of the game, you're not going to have all these terrain tiles on here. You're going to have a scenario, which will give you specific tiles.
Yeah, on the back of the scenario, which is the only thing you're supposed to look at, it shows you this setup.
It'll tell you what tiles you're going to place on the board and what crops to place on them. So it's kind of like if you've done a Sudoku, the starter numbers that they give you on the board to get you going.
And there's 4 types of terrain. So you got dirt, you got sand, you got mountain, and you got grasslands.
Yeah. So, and there's 5 types of crops, and that's going to vary depending on the size of the terrain that you find, because the terrains range very much like a Tetris piece.
Yes, which is kind of cool, actually. Yeah. I like it.
So when you're going onto the board, your first action, because the board's pretty much empty, is you're going to pretty much explore at the beginning of the
Right.
game. So explore goes along with movement. So at the beginning of the game, you would come in from one of the sides of the board. You get to choose wherever you want to come in from. And the rule is if you hit an empty space, you have to stop.
And that's what you're going to explore.
Yes. You cannot move through your opponents. You can move through your own pieces, and you can move through the
Already discovered
and populated with the crop spaces. And if you go through those spaces and you hit the crop, you can turn and change direction.
Right.
But if you could get into a situation where you're blockaded by your opponents, and if so, the other option is you can remove one of your pieces from the board.
But then you kind of lose your turn.
Yeah.
But then you can come back in anywhere on each side of the map.
Right. So when you explore, you're going to check. There's basically icons on this side that look very Native American.
Yeah, so you got like a snake, a turtle, an alpaca, a lizard, and like a bird or an eagle.
Yeah, and then going across the side, you've got ones that would match up with
like an element.
Yeah, the elements, but there's more than those. Just those because the longer board has more of them.
Right, but like on this one, you got water, leaf, mountain, fire, and a sun.
Yeah. So you're gonna triangulate using this thing, matching up the icons on the dial. It's very super simple. So
and the colors match. So the element's red, and the red is on top.
The dial has the red, and at the bottom there's a switch with the 5 different rows on it going across. So you choose which icon matches, line up your icon.
Depending on which action you're doing.
If you're exploring, you're going to use the little box that shows the different terrain tiles. And you reveal it, and there's a little circle in there.
Which is what Miranda
does. Use the circle. You look in the circle, it's got the icon that matches the icon and the color of the tile.
Right.
So it's very simple. You discover that tile.
And a really good point, which we didn't really talk about, but now that we're talking about it, what's really good is it takes into effect color blindness because it's got a symbol.
Yeah.
So on the corner of each of the land tiles is a matching symbol. So it can be kind of hard to see the color in that little circle. So more importantly, look for the symbol.
Yeah, but when we played with Miranda, she kept discovering deserts every time.
It's so weird.
Yeah, because if you don't look at the circle, the entire rest of that area is the same color as the desert. So, for whatever reason, she ignored the circle, which had the icon in it, and she kept declaring that she found desert. And we burned through all of our desert tiles right away.
Yeah, so we had to rescore her, figure out what land tiles, rescore her. So, it was hilarious.
So, so don't do that. Look at the circle.
Yeah.
When you explore, then you're going to take the tile that matches the terrain type, place it on, and you get to move up on the chart that matches the terrain tile. And then you score victory points based upon the number of other tracks in addition to that one that you have moved up to that level on. So the first one, you're going to get 1 victory point because you're automatically going to be one above all the others. But if you choose a different area and discover a different terrain, then you will move up a different track and score 2 points.
Yep.
And
that's also the way to end the game.
Yes.
So if you discover the last terrain type, even number of turns, you finish the round, one more round of just divining.
No, you don't even finish the round.
I thought you did.
No.
Okay,
you hit that last tile, you stop, and then everybody gets one divination, which is the next action you can take. So
I knocked everything over because in South America they have a lot of earthquakes.
I see.
Yeah.
Do they? So for the divination, which is the other action you take, you can't move on the divination. It's where you stand is where you trigger. But if you have multiple, because you have a number of pieces up to 5, depending on player count. You could have multiple on the board, and you can divine for each one of your character or players act figures if you want to. But the trick is you'd have to know.
And that's the Sudoku element. And that's the Sudoku element of the game.
So here you're going to have to try to figure out what crop number is appropriate for that space. So you have crops from 1 to 5, and it's going to be determined by the number of spaces in that Tetris style piece that you've unlocked. So if you go in too early, you may not know how many spaces are in that Tetris piece, and you may guess something and find out you got the wrong number.
And that's the bad part.
Right.
So if you guess the wrong number, you get negative points.
Right. So no 2 numbers can be touching either horizontally, vertically, or diagonally even with outside of the Tetris pieces, and then within the same Tetris piece, you can only have one occurrence of each one of the numbers. So given those rules, you've got to try to figure out what numbers and deduce what that tile could be. And it seems harder than it really is.
Yeah,
until you start looking at it.
I'm not great at logic puzzles, but once I got through it, I was able to figure out.
Yeah, because that's my biggest grievance with it. Is I would like it to be more challenging.
Yeah.
It's not challenging enough for me because I do sudokus all the time, and it was like, okay, there's only 1 through 5. I wanted give me
like
10.
1 through 10.
Yeah, give me 10. Because it's a little simple as far as figuring out, especially on the smaller board. And I think it's intentional. Once you get to the bigger board, I add a little more depth to it.
Yeah, but not a whole lot because you still only got the 5 numbers.
Right, you still are limited on the numbers, but you'll have more potential groupings. So I think the larger board is going to definitely give you a little more depth to it, and also I think the co-op mode adds in I thought it was interesting. They call them the Otoma and Otoma instead of Automa, but it adds in the non-player characters that are going to be blocking you as you go through your path.
And I think that's where the solo might be actually pretty good because it's probably going to be that much harder because you don't have the other players guessing and you seeing what numbers are popping up because it's probably timed. So if it being timed, you're going to be very limited in the amount of selection that you get. So I bet the solo is going to be really good.
Well, the co-op also has, with these player things, you're going to have tiles from the terrain that you're going to add to the board.
Okay.
And I think that'll add an interesting element.
That would be, that might be neat.
So, so once you divine, if you get it correct, you get to place the token, you get the victory points for that token, and you get a matching crop of that type. And you can only have one of each, but you collect a set of them and you can cash them in for up to 10 victory points if you have the full set of all 5.
And if you do it early enough, then you might have enough time to build another smaller set.
Yeah, so you can cycle them. The other thing is if you get it wrong. Now, if you get it wrong, you lose the number of victory points of the crop that it actually was. Right. And you don't get the wooden token when you discover it, and you basically wasted a scoring opportunity.
Yeah, because it popped. The tile will still come out.
Yeah,
you just lose points and you don't get a chance to get it back.
So you want to try to make sure that you at least have a very good chance of being correct. But the challenge is if you're wasting time moving your people around, somebody else can get into the spaces that are more valuable.
And then not only that element of the timing. I mean, it felt like you were speeding the game up. You were doing a whole lot of discovery when I was wanted to try and divine a little bit more often, but with him moving around, it's like I need to move around too, so I have more spaces to be able to divine at the right time.
Well, I got in a situation where I was divining. I figured out how I could pretty much the puzzle for the whole thing, and I'm like, I just need to get myself strategically in the places that were going to give me different crops,
so you can get all the different
to get as many of the ranges. Problem is, I never could get a 4. Because Miranda was standing on the 4 and you were standing on the 4 and the 2 that I was at.
And it didn't help with Miranda getting it kind of juxtaposed a little bit.
Well, that was early.
It was pretty early, but still. But it was a pretty close scoring game. So, I mean, that was kind of interesting in that regard. Usually these kind of games, he runs away with it. And it's like, there's no competition.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of opportunities to run away with this game because you're going to get a few extra points if you perfectly balance going up the tracks as far as moving it. And then, if you get points for the puzzles, if you get the 5-pointers, they're going to be worth more. But then again, you also want to get different ones to try to cash in, which balances that out a bit. Because if you got all the 5s, you're not going to get any different icons to trade in. So, they have a good balancing mechanism, but it's almost a little too balanced. It's hard to pull ahead. I mean, we pulled ahead from Miranda this game, but I think that's because...
And the other thing is the scoring. I mean, now granted, this scoring track was smaller than this scoring track. So that makes me wonder one of the other modes. It looks like scoring is going to be much more prevalent than it was our game. Because it was not a high scoring game.
You're going to double the board, so you'll have more potential to move up because you're going to have more discovery. So they had to make room for that. But I mean, I think it's an interesting puzzle. I don't think it's got a lot of meat that it's going to last.
Right. I think that's it. It's not going to last. I think it'd be really fun to play it a couple times cooperatively. Might be really fun to do competitively. Maybe even more fun solo. But it's only going to have so many plays in it.
Yeah. But even then, I mean,
you do have the different scenarios.
If I do a puzzle book,
yeah.
I only got so many plays that I'm done.
Other than the fact that you got all the different scenarios. So maybe if you played through those different scenarios, it could really add a little bit of meat. But it's going to be a lot of wash, rinse, repeat type of gameplay.
It does come with a pretty decent sized stack of
scenarios. Now, there were some Kickstarter exclusives.
I think there were 7 additional puzzles for the Kickstarters that were in there. At least I would presume KS 1 through 7 is what
that stands for, yeah.
And then, and those are all in the full size.
Right.
And, and so you get a little more bang for your buck if you did get the Kickstarter edition. And then, of course, the wooden pieces and such. So if you can track it down, if you do have an interest in this, I think we're tracking this one down.
Yeah.
I personally enjoyed this game. Like I said, I think you said it dead on. I think this is going to have so many plays, and then you're going to be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
But while you're having those, if you like Sudokus, this is a great game.
And I think it's that, and I think it'd be worthwhile if you have kids that you're trying to teach logic to.
Yeah.
So like math and logic in general, this would be a great way to introduce some of those concepts.
Patterns.
Yeah, it'd be a great way to introduce some of those concepts to them.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to give this one a 7.5. I think is where I'm at.
I think that's a good score because, I mean, if there was a little bit more meat to it, I think it would have been a higher score. But it still just feels good. I mean, it's pleasant to look at. It's fun to play, and it didn't kill my brain.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely not. I mean, while it's a thinky game, it's not a brain burner.
Right.
So, and it's easy to pick up and learn.
It really is.
So, all right. Well, that's our thoughts on Tiwanaku. And if you had a chance to play it, let us know what you think.
Absolutely.
And if you just like puzzles, let us know what your favorite puzzles are. We'd be interested in hearing that because I love puzzles.
Yeah, maybe there's a more complex Sudoku-like board game out there we don't know about.
Yep.
So,
all right. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.